My name is Jake Morrison. I'm 38 years old. 8 years ago, I walked away from civilization and settled in the Alaskan wilderness as a ranger. Before that, I served 2 tours with the Army, first in Afghanistan, then stateside training recruits. When my contract ended, I knew I couldn't go back to the city. Everything there felt fake. The noise, the crowds, people playing games with each other. I was done with all of it. I found a posting for a wilderness ranger position in the Denali region. Applied, got hired without questions. Military experience, weapons training, discipline. That's all they cared about. Now I work alone on a 50,000-acre territory, 40 miles from the nearest town, Talkeetna. My ranger station is a solid log cabin built back in the 70s. 2 rooms, a wood stove, double-paned windows. There's a small barn, a tool shed, and a garden where I grow potatoes, carrots, and onions in the short summer season. My job is simple: keep poachers out, monitor wildlife populations, watch for fires. People are rare out here. Every 2 weeks I radio into the main ranger station. Once a month a supply truck brings flour, rice, canned goods, and salt. Everything else I get myself. Fishing, hunting under license, foraging berries and mushrooms. I live alone and I don't mind it. In the Army I got used to solitude, but this is different. Not crushing, liberating. Nobody prying into your business, nobody demanding reports on every decision. My routine is straightforward. Up at 6 a.m. In winter it's pitch black, in summer the sun barely sets. First thing, start the fire, boil water, eat breakfast, pack my gear. Then I head out on patrol. The route changes daily. I check trails, key points, places where poachers might set traps or drive in on ATVs. A patrol takes anywhere from 4 to 8 hours depending on where I go. Back by mid-afternoon, then it's maintenance. Chopping wood, tending the garden, fixing equipment, dinner, a book, some repairs. Lights out by 9. Sleep comes hard and dreamless. My equipment is basic. A Motorola radio, old but reliable. A Remington 870 shotgun. A Ruger rifle for distance. Axe, saw, knife. An old Kubota tractor runs like a tank if you maintain it right. I use it to haul logs, clear roads, pull out stuck vehicles when the occasional lost tourist wanders too far. Doesn't happen often, but it happens. I don't regret leaving the city. Out here, life is real. You work, you live. You don't work, you die. It's honest, no deception. The city taught me one thing: people lie constantly, to each other, to themselves. Out here, there's nobody to lie to and no point in trying. Either you handle it or you don't. The wilderness doesn't forgive mistakes, but it doesn't deceive either. That's enough for me. The morning of September 23rd came overcast but dry. I woke at 6 as usual, started the fire, made oatmeal. Through the window, gray sky, low clouds, damp air. Weather was shifting. I could feel it. The real autumn rains were coming. The past few days had seen heavy downpours, but yesterday they stopped. I needed to use the brake to check the far section, especially the old logging road. They abandoned that road back in the 90s when the timber contracts dried up, but sometimes poachers try driving in on ATVs or trucks. After heavy rain, the ground turns to soup, the ruts wash out, and I need to know the road's condition in case I have to extract someone or block access. I packed light: thermos of coffee, some jerky, a granola bar, rope, flashlight. Took the radio just in case, though reception is terrible out there. The towers are too far, the terrain kills the signal. Left the shotgun behind. Standard patrol. Bears this time of year are usually calm, fattening up for hibernation, not aggressive. Dressed warm. Flannel shirt, waterproof jacket, rubber boots. Mud would be everywhere. Left at 7 a.m. Temperature around 45 degrees, no wind, dead quiet. I love this time. The wilderness wakes slowly, sounds muffled. Birds haven't started their racket yet. First 2 miles followed a familiar trail along a creek. The water was high, rain had swollen it, current fast. I crossed on logs I'd laid down 2 years ago. The wood was slick but held. Then the trail climbed uphill. Not steep but long, about a mile. Ground underfoot was soft, water pooling in the low spots. I moved slowly, scanning as I went. Fresh moose tracks heading toward the marsh. Wild boar had rooted around an old stump looking for tubers. Tracks were clear in the wet soil. No poacher traps, no snares. All good. An hour in, I reached a wide clearing, an old cut block. They'd logged it 30 years ago. Now it's grown back with young birch, aspen, brush. I stopped, drank some coffee, looked around. No sign of human activity. Good. The route led deeper, another 1.5 miles to the old logging road. I remembered I'd left the tractor at a distant worksite 2 days ago. Been clearing deadfall. Several big spruce had come down, blocking the access. Spent all day sawing and dragging trunks with the tractor. By evening, I was exhausted, decided not to drive it back to the station. I'd return in the morning anyway. Left it there, covered with a tarp, locked up. The tractor was about 10 miles from the station as the crow flies, but 15 by road. Winding route over a ridge. On the tractor, it's 90 minutes of rough driving. I plan to retrieve it today after patrol, bring it back to the station. I kept moving. The trail narrowed, cutting through dense spruce. Dark even in daylight. Branches close overhead, sunlight can't penetrate. Ground covered in pine needles. Footsteps almost silent. Smell of resin, damp earth, rotting leaves. The familiar smell of wilderness. Another 30 minutes and I reached the logging road, or what's left of it. 2 deep ruts overgrown with grass and scrub, a hump of earth between them. Ground was soft. Rain had done its work. Water standing in the low spots. Some places ankle deep. Impossible to drive a regular vehicle through here. Only a tractor or a serious 4x4 with preparation. I walked along the road checking for tracks. No fresh tire marks, no tread prints. Poachers hadn't been here. Good. Everything was quiet. Normal patrol day, routine check, no incidents. I didn't know that in 30 minutes everything would change. I'd walked about half a mile along the logging road, checking the ground and looking for signs. Everything was quiet. Just wind in the trees and the occasional knock of a woodpecker somewhere deep in the forest. I stopped at a large puddle, maybe 30 feet long. Water murky, depth unknown. Places like this turn into traps after heavy rain. A vehicle drives in, sinks to the axles, can't get out. I pulled out my notebook, marked the coordinates by compass, noted the location. I'd need to come back later, throw down some gravel or lay logs if we ever need to use this road. I was about to turn back when I heard it. At first, I didn't understand what it was. Distant, muffled, rhythmic. A few seconds of silence, then again, and again. I froze, listened. The sound repeated at regular intervals, about 3 seconds between each burst, low, droning, unnatural. I thought maybe I was hearing things. Sometimes echo plays tricks out here. Sounds bounce off slopes, distort. But the sound continued. I listened more carefully and slowly realized it was a car horn. Someone pressing the button rhythmically, insistently. My first thought, I'm wrong. There can't be cars here. This road's been abandoned for 15 years. It's not even on modern maps. GPS doesn't show it. The nearest paved road is 25 miles away. Nobody drives in here. Not even poachers. Too risky. Get stuck and you're not getting out. The last time I saw a vehicle here was 3 years ago. Forest Service guys in an old Land Cruiser checking boundary markers. But it's late September now. Season's closed. No official work happening. The sound didn't stop. I stood on the road trying to pinpoint the direction. It was coming from ahead, farther down the rut. maybe a quarter mile, maybe more. Hard to judge distance by sound in the forest. I took off my pack, pulled out the radio, tried to reach the station. Static. Only the crackle of interference. Too far. The terrain blocks everything. Even if I got through, nobody could send help. The roads washed out. An emergency vehicle would get stuck in the first puddle. A heavy wrecker weighs 4 tons. It wouldn't make it through this mud. The decision came quick. I had to check. If someone was stuck out there, they needed help. Maybe a lost tourist? Maybe someone local trying to cut through and got into trouble. I shouldered my pack, adjusted the straps, and walked forward toward the sound. The road got worse. Ruts deeper, puddles more frequent. I skirted the worst spots, walking along the edge where the ground was drier. The sound got louder. No doubt now, definitely a car horn. The rhythm didn't change. 3 seconds pause, honk, pause again. Someone was clearly signaling distress. I walked another 1,000 feet. The road curved right around a small rise. I came out onto a straight section and stopped dead. In the middle of the road, sitting in a wide mud pit, was a vehicle. White, big, expensive. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was a Range Rover Sport. Pristine, glossy, urban. The SUV was buried deep, wheels sunk to the hubs. The undercarriage rested on the ground. Around it, skid marks. Someone had tried to gun it out, spinning the wheels, only digging deeper. I walked closer. The horn kept blaring. Inside the vehicle, I could see a silhouette through the tinted windows. I circled to the front, looked at the license plate, California. Of course. I came around to the driver's door, knocked on the window. The horn stopped. The window rolled down slowly. I saw the face. A young woman, mid-20s. Blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. Makeup flawless. Even here, stuck in the mud in the middle of nowhere. She wore a white designer jacket. I don't know brands, but I could tell it was expensive. Manicured nails, bright polish. Her face was tense, eyes red. She'd been crying. She looked up at me, and the first thing she said, "Finally. Call a tow truck. I've been stuck here for 2 hours." Her voice was demanding, confident, the kind of voice people use with service staff. I just stood there, looked at her, then at the vehicle, then at the road around us. Mud, forest, silence, a tow truck. I almost laughed but held it back. "Hello," I said evenly. "My name's Jake. I'm a ranger. How did you get here?" I stood next to the vehicle, trying to process what I was seeing. The picture was absurd. A white Range Rover in the middle of an abandoned logging road, 25 miles from civilization. A young woman in designer clothes with perfect nails demanding a tow truck. It looked like a scene from a bad movie where the director didn't think about logic. I walked around the SUV again, studying it carefully. The body was clean, almost no scratches. She'd been driving carefully, avoiding branches. California plates, dealer frame. The vehicle was new, maybe a year or two old. Wheels were sporty summer tires, completely wrong for mud. The undercarriage sat flat on the ground, differentials buried in earth. The wheels had spun deep holes trying to escape. Classic situation. Driver doesn't realize they're stuck, keeps gunning it until the vehicle is completely buried. The young woman watched me from inside the cabin, waiting for an answer. I tried to figure out how she even got here. This road doesn't exist officially. It's not on modern maps. GPS doesn't show it. Navigation apps wouldn't route you here. Maybe old maps, but who uses paper maps anymore? And even if some old Soviet-era forestry map showed this road as a service track, it dead ends. Goes nowhere. Why would anyone drive here? I looked at the tracks. The Range Rover had come from the north, from the direction of the old quarry. The quarry was abandoned in the 80s. The access to it is overgrown, but theoretically passable if you know the way. So she must have turned off the main highway, driven through the quarry, then onto this logging road and kept going. But why? I asked how you got here, I repeated, looking at the woman. She sighed, annoyed. I was driving to a photo shoot. My GPS showed a shortcut through the forest. I turned, drove about 3 miles, then the road got worse, but I thought it was just temporary. Then, this. She gestured at the mud. I got stuck. Tried to get out, couldn't. I've been sitting here 2 hours. Can you call a tow truck or not? GPS. I thought about it. Maybe some app uses old satellite data or legacy maps that show the road, and the algorithm decided it was passable. It's possible. Technology makes mistakes sometimes, but still, driving an unfamiliar road into the wilderness alone in a vehicle like this without preparation, that's either stupidity or complete ignorance of the terrain. I looked at the sky. Clouds were thickening, dark gray, heavy. I could feel it in the air, the pressure in my ears, the humidity. Rain was coming soon, maybe an hour, maybe 2. If it started again like the past few days, heavy and sustained, this road would turn into a swamp. Even my tractor could get stuck if the ground liquefied completely. There won't be a tow truck, I said calmly. No cell service. Nearest town is 25 miles, the road's washed out. A regular vehicle would get stuck in the first puddle. A heavy tow truck weighs 4 tons. It won't make it through this mud. She stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. What do you mean there won't be one? I mean exactly what I said. Your vehicle is stuck. I can't pull it out without my tractor. My tractor is at a work site 10 miles from here. I could walk there, drive it back, hook you up and pull you out. But there's a problem. I pointed at the sky. Rain's coming. In an hour, maybe 2. If it rains like it has been, heavy and long, this ground will turn to liquid mud. The tractor's heavy, wide tracks, but even it could get stuck if the soil goes completely soft. I'm not risking the only piece of equipment I have on this whole territory. Pulling out a car is one thing. Losing my tractor is another. She stared at me, speechless. Listen carefully, I said, looking her in the eye. I can't pull your vehicle out right now. I need the tractor, but driving it in this weather is foolish. Rain's coming, the road will turn to swamp, the tractor will get stuck, we have to wait. Wait? She repeated, voice rising. Wait how long? 10 days, maybe 12. We're in the middle of the fall washout season right now. Rain every day. I heard the forecast 2 weeks ago on the radio. Rain's supposed to continue until at least October 8th. Today's September 23rd. Do the math. After the rain stops, we'll get overnight freezes. The ground will firm up. Then I can bring the tractor and pull your vehicle out. Not before. She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. 10 days? I can't wait 10 days. I have work, shoots, contracts. You can, I answered calmly, because there's no other option. Walking to town is 25 miles through mud and forest. You won't make it 5 in those shoes. Sitting in your vehicle, you'll freeze by tonight. Temperature's mid-40s now. Tonight it'll drop to near freezing. Your heater will run on idle for a while, but eventually you'll run out of gas. Then it's just cold. I paused. One option. Come with me to the ranger station. There's a roof, a stove, food. Wait out the weather, then I'll pull your vehicle and you can leave. I watched her try to process the information. Her face went pale, hands clenched into fists. She clearly wasn't used to situations where you can't just pay money and solve the problem. Out here, money doesn't work. Out here, the only currency is legs, hands, and common sense. What if I stay here, sit in the car until morning? Maybe service will come back, she tried. I shook my head. Service won't come back. The tower's 40 miles away. By morning, you'll be hypothermic, sick, then it gets worse. She was silent for a full minute, staring out the windshield, then at me, then out the window again. I could see the internal struggle, pride versus fear. Finally, she exhaled. Fine, I'll go to your station, but I'm taking my things. I nodded. Take only essentials, ID, money, warm clothes, leave heavy bags. Walking takes 90 minutes, you won't carry much. She got out of the vehicle. I saw her fully now. Tall, slender, dressed expensively but impractically. White jacket, slim pants, platform boots. Perfect for the city. Catastrophic for wilderness. She opened the back. There was a large suitcase, a duffel bag, boxes with equipment. She started pulling things out, trying to decide what to take. You can't carry all that, I said. One backpacker bag, max 20 pounds. She looked at me, offended. How one bag? I need things. Cosmetics, camera equipment for shoots. Camera equipment won't work at the station. No electricity to charge. Cosmetics either. Pack warm clothes, ID, phone, leave the rest in the vehicle. Lock it on the alarm. Nobody will touch it. No people out here. She laughed nervously. You're serious? I can't leave my stuff in a car in the middle of the forest. You can, I replied, or carry it all yourself. I'll carry my own pack. I won't carry your things. Pause. She looked at me, evaluating whether I was bluffing. Realized I wasn't. Her face hardened. Fine. But I want you to understand, I'm not just some girl in a car. I have 1 million followers on Instagram. I'm a known influencer. I work with major brands. If something happens to me, it'll be a scandal. You understand? I shrugged. I understand, but your followers won't help here. What helps here is warm clothes and knowing how to walk through mud. If you want nothing to happen, listen to what I say and do what I tell you. She pressed her lips together but said nothing. Started sorting through her things. Pulled a warmer jacket from the suitcase, a black puffer, also designer. Changed shoes, white sneakers, clean. Underwear, sweater, jeans. Took a small cosmetics bag, phone, documents, money. Put it all in a crossbody bag. Power bank? I asked. What? External battery for charging your phone. Yeah, I have one. Take it. No electricity at the station, but at least you can charge your phone a few times before the battery dies completely. She nodded, pulled out a large power bank, multiple charges, put it in the bag. I watched her pack, thinking how long she'd last. 1 day? 2? Or would she break the first evening when she realized there's no shower, no Wi-Fi, no food delivery? You said there's food at the station? She asked, zipping the bag. Yeah, rice, canned goods, dried meat, potatoes, onions, carrots from the garden, tea, sugar, salt. Nothing fancy, but you won't starve. What about a bathroom? Outhouse, 10 yards from the cabin. She made a face. Seriously? Outside? Seriously, no plumbing in the wilderness. What about a shower? There's a creek, or you can heat water on the stove and wash from a basin. Her face went sour. I almost smiled but held back. She clearly pictured the station as a hunting lodge with minimal comfort. Maybe no Wi-Fi, but at least an indoor toilet and hot water. Reality would be a shock. Fine, she said, closing the trunk. Let's go. But I want you to know I'll be filing a complaint with the ranger service for not being able to pull my vehicle out immediately. I looked at her calmly. File away. I'll explain to my supervisor that you drove onto an abandoned road without permission, got stuck through your own carelessness, and demanded the impossible. I think they'll understand. She wanted to say something but stayed quiet. Locked the vehicle, hit the key fob. The alarm beeped. Lights flashed. The white Range Rover sitting in the mud looked ridiculous, like a Christmas ornament in a junkyard. Name? I asked, checking my pack straps. Madison. Jake, I introduced myself, though I'd already said it. Let's go. Stay behind me, don't fall behind. If you get tired, tell me, we'll stop. But we won't stand around long. Rain's coming soon. She nodded, slung the bag over her shoulder. I turned and started back down the road, the same ruts I'd come from. Madison followed. I heard her stumble, heard her shoes squelch in the mud, heard her quietly curse under her breath. The first raindrops fell 10 minutes later. The rain started light, a drizzle. I walked ahead, not looking back. Behind me, I could hear Madison trying to keep my pace, but failing. Her shoes, platform boots, had zero grip on the slick ground. Every few steps, she'd slip, stop, try to catch her balance. 15 minutes in, I heard, "Wait, I need to rest." I stopped, turned around. She stood about 30 feet back, breathing hard, face flushed, hair coming loose, jacket already dotted with rain. The bag had slipped off her shoulder, hanging awkwardly at her side. I waited silently. She came closer, leaned against a tree. How much farther? Hour and change, maybe 90 minutes if you keep stopping. "I'm not used to walking like this," she said, irritated. "Normally I go to the gym, but there's a flat floor there, treadmill." I didn't answer. What's there to say? A treadmill and wilderness, totally different things. Out here it's mud, roots, rocks, uneven ground. You don't need toned legs, you need endurance and balance. "Let's keep moving," I said. "Standing around, you'll cool down, get soaked, then catch cold." She nodded, straightened up, and we continued. The rain was picking up. No longer drizzle. Real rain now. Drops big, frequent. I pulled a rain poncho from my pack, threw it on. Madison didn't have one. Her jacket soaked through fast. The fabric clearly wasn't made for a downpour. We walked in silence. I thought about what came next. 10 to 12 days with this woman at the station. She's urban, spoiled, used to comfort. She can't work with her hands, can't cook on a wood stove, can't chop firewood. I'd have to teach her everything from scratch, and she'd clearly resist, pull rank, demand special treatment. I'd dealt with types like her before. 3 years ago, a tourist from Seattle showed up on my territory. Young guy decided to test himself in the wilderness. Stayed with me a week. First 3 days he whined, complained, demanded I entertain him. Then he broke, started working, helping. By the end of the week, he was splitting wood and cooking oatmeal just fine. Left satisfied, said he'd learned a lot about himself. Maybe Madison would be the same. Maybe worse. The trail dipped toward the creek. Here the ground was even more slippery. Clay mixed with water turned to soap. I moved carefully, grabbing trees, checking every step. Madison followed, but she wasn't managing. I turned just as she slipped, fell to her knees, hands in the mud. The bag fell off her shoulder, dangled from her elbow. She yelped, surprise, not pain. I walked over, held out my hand. She grabbed it and I pulled her up. Pants muddy, palms too. Face angry, eyes wet. "You okay?" I asked. "No, not okay," she snapped. "I'm covered in mud, soaked, freezing. I can't walk like this." I looked at her carefully. Hysteria was starting. Normal. Her body wasn't used to stress, throwing an emotional release. I had to either let her scream it out or shut it down hard. I chose the latter. "Madison," I said evenly, looking her in the eye. "Listen carefully. Right now you're wet, muddy, tired. But you have two choices. First, keep walking, make it to the station, change clothes, warm up by the stove. Second, sit here and have a breakdown. If you pick the second, I'm leaving without you. Decide." She stared at me through tears and rain. I could see emotions warring inside her. Finally, she wiped her face with her palm, smearing mud across her cheek. "Let's go." I nodded, turned, and kept walking. She followed silently. No more complaints, no more stops. I heard her breathing hard, heard her sniffling, but I didn't turn around. Let her adjust. We crossed the creek on the logs. I went across easily. She went slowly, holding onto my pack. Then the trail climbed, long uphill, about a mile. I felt Madison barely hanging on, but I didn't slow down. We had to reach the station before it got completely dark and cold. Finally, we emerged into the clearing in front of the station. I stopped, waited for Madison to catch up. She came out of the forest, saw the cabin and froze. I saw it in her eyes. Shock. A log cabin darkened with age. Metal roof, stovepipe sticking out the side, small windows with double frames, crooked porch. Next to it, a shed, a sauna, the outhouse visible in the yard, a well with a sweep. Around it, a garden, beds already harvested, black earth. No wires, no antennas, nothing modern. The station looked like it was from another century. Madison stood in the rain, staring. I walked past her to the door, pulled out my key, unlocked it. "Come on in," I said. "Welcome." She slowly followed. I went in first, dropped my pack on the bench by the door. Madison came in behind me, stopped in the doorway and looked around. I saw her face. Confusion, disbelief, dawning horror. The cabin was simple. One big room, kitchen and living area combined. The wood stove, brick-lined, took up almost a quarter of the space. Rough-hewn wooden table, 2 benches, shelves on the walls with jars of grain, canned goods, dishes. A kerosene lamp hung from a hook. Windows small, glass cloudy. Plank floor, warped in places. In the corner, a door leading to my room. Bed and a small barrel stove in there. Another door to the storage room where I keep tools. No outlets, no light switches, no hint of electricity. Just the stove, the lamp, and bare walls. Madison stood in the middle of the cabin, water dripping from her hair, her jacket, her bag. She turned slowly, looking around, trying to find anything familiar. She didn't. "There aren't even outlets," she said quietly, like she couldn't believe it. "No," I replied, taking off my wet jacket. "No electricity. I have a generator, but I use it rarely, only to charge the radio and power tools. Gas is limited, have to conserve. Light comes from the kerosene lamp and the stove." "What about Wi-Fi?" I smirked. "No Wi-Fi. Not even regular radio, just the Ranger band for check-ins, and that doesn't always work." She was silent. I hung my jacket on a hook by the door, kicked off my boots, set them on the mat, walked to the stove, opened the door, looked inside. Coal's dead. I'd fired it this morning, but it cooled by evening. Had to restart. "Get undressed," I said without turning around. "Hang your wet clothes on the bench, we'll dry them by the stove. Change into something dry if you've got it." She stood unmoving. I turned around. "What? Where do I change? There's no rooms, doors." I nodded toward my room. "That's my room, you can change in there, door closes." She walked uncertainly to the door, opened it, went inside. I heard her rustling around, opening her bag, getting things out. Meanwhile, I pulled dry kindling from the wood box, paper, thin sticks, a thicker log. Laid crumpled paper in the firebox, topped it with thin kindling, then a piece of split wood. Struck a match, held it to the paper. Fire caught fast, kindling ignited, smelled like smoke. I closed the stove door. Madison came out a few minutes later. Changed into dry jeans and a sweater, hair tied in a bun, face pale, lips pressed tight. She sat on the bench by the table, put her hands on her knees, said nothing. I closed the stove, stood up. "Stove will heat up soon. It'll warm up in here. Hang your clothes to dry." I took her wet jacket and pants, hung them on a line strung above the stove. Water started dripping onto the floor. "They'll dry by morning. You hungry?" She nodded silently. I pulled a jar of rice from the shelf, poured it into a pot, added water from the bucket, set it on the stove. Opened a can of beef, dumped it in, added salt. Simple, fast, no frills. Ready in 30 minutes. Madison sat watching me cook. Then she couldn't hold it in. "How long will I be here?" "Told you already. 10 days minimum, maybe 12. Depends on the weather. Until the rain stops and the ground freezes enough, I'm not bringing the tractor." "What if I want to leave earlier? Walk out?" I looked at her. Town's 25 miles, roads washed out, places knee-deep in mud. Walking takes at least 2 days with an overnight in the forest. You don't have gear, no tent, no experience. You'd get lost in the first hour, get hypothermic, soaked. You wouldn't make it. Want to risk it? She was silent, then quietly. No. Then you're staying. You'll live by my rules. First rule, food is shared. We take turns cooking. I cook today, you cook tomorrow. Second rule, we chop our own firewood. I'll show you how, but you'll do it yourself. No firewood, no heat. No heat, you freeze. Third rule, we haul our own water from the well. I'm not your servant, I won't wait on you. Out here, everyone's responsible for themselves. She stared at me wide-eyed. You're serious? I have to chop firewood? I've never held an axe in my life. You'll learn, I said calmly. Out here, people learn fast. Either you learn or you freeze, no choice. She opened her mouth to say something, but stayed quiet. I saw the information sinking in. She realized she'd landed in a situation where her money, her status, her followers meant nothing, where the only currency was work. I stirred the rice in the pot, tasted it. Almost done. Got 2 bowls, 2 spoons, scooped the rice and beef, set them on the table. Poured hot water from the kettle into mugs, tossed in tea bags. Dinner's ready. Eat. Madison silently picked up the spoon and started eating. I sat across from her, ate too. The cabin was quiet except for the crackle of the stove and the tick of an old clock on the wall. I watched her and thought, wonder how long she'll last. We finished eating in silence. Madison stared at her bowl, spooning the last bits of rice, not looking up. I gathered the dishes, took them to the wash basin. Simple setup, water drips from a tank. You hold a basin underneath. Wash the bowls in cold water, set them to dry. Madison still sat at the table, unmoving. I walked to the stove, added more wood. The fire flared brighter, warmth spread through the cabin. Outside it was getting dark, rain drumming on the roof. I lit the kerosene lamp, hung it on the hook. Yellow light filled the room, shadows dancing on the walls. Madison finally looked up. Why are you like this with me? Hard, no sympathy. I'm in trouble and you're making me work like a slave. I sat on the bench across from her, looked at her. Not like a slave, like an adult. Different rules out here. If you want to understand, I'll tell you a story. She was silent, waiting. I leaned back on the bench, looked at the fire in the stove. 8 years ago, I came here for the first time. Just left the army, contract ended. Didn't want to stay in the city. Found this ranger job. Came for an interview. Old ranger named Tom Hartley met me. He was 68 then. Worked here 30 years, knew the wilderness like the back of his hand. I thought he'd welcome me, train me, show me everything gradually. I was wrong. I paused, remembering. Madison listened, didn't interrupt. First day, Tom drove me here to the station, showed me the cabin, the stove, the well, said, "This is your home now. Live." I asked, "Where's the bathroom?" He pointed at the outhouse. I asked, "Where's the shower?" He smirked and said, "Sauna's out back, fire it yourself." I asked where to plug in my phone. He looked at me like I was an idiot and said, "Generator's in the shed, but gas is limited. Don't waste it on nonsense." I was lost. See, I'm from the city too, even if I served in the army. Used to barracks, mess hall, hot water. Here, nothing. I thought I wouldn't make it. I stood, walked to the stove, added another log, continued. First week I thought I'd break. Cold, uncomfortable, lonely. I tried complaining to Tom, told him it was hard, I wasn't used to it. You know what he said? He said nobody's used to it until they learn. You want me to feel sorry for you? Not happening. Pity doesn't work here. Only one thing works. You either do it or you die. Don't fire the stove, you freeze. Don't chop wood, no heat. Don't cook, you starve. Simple. Madison listened, her face attentive now. I was angry at him then. Thought he was a cruel old man who didn't care about me, but he wasn't cruel, he was honest. He didn't want me dependent on him, waiting for help. He wanted me independent. And you know what? A month later, I understood he was right. I learned to fire the stove, chop wood, cook, fix equipment. I got stronger, more confident. I stopped waiting for someone else to solve my problems. I started solving them myself. I returned to the bench, looked Madison in the eye. Tom died 4 years ago. Heart gave out. Last time I saw him was a month before. He was sitting by the stove, drinking tea, and he said to me, "Jake, the main thing I gave you wasn't how to chop wood. Main thing, I taught you not to pity yourself. Pity weakens you, makes you soft. The wilderness doesn't forgive weakness. Remember that and pass it on to whoever comes after you." I stopped. Madison was silent too, looking at me thoughtfully. "You think I'm weak?" she asked quietly. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Right now, yeah, weak. You're used to everything being done for you. Money, status, followers, it's all cushions you've been lying on. Out here, those cushions don't exist. Out here, it's just you and reality. Whether you get stronger or break, the next few days will show." She looked down, thinking. I stood, went to the storage closet, pulled out a blanket. "You'll sleep here on the bench by the stove. Blanket's warm, you won't freeze. Morning, we get up at 6. I'll show you how to fire the stove and make breakfast. Then I'll teach you to chop wood." Questions? She shook her head. "No." "Then get some sleep. Tomorrow's a hard day." I went into my room, closed the door, lay on the bed, pulled the blanket over me. I could hear Madison settling on the bench, the blanket rustling, her sighing, then silence. I lay in the dark thinking about Tom. He was right. Pity doesn't help. Only honesty and work help. I woke at 6. Something was wrong. The cabin was colder than usual. The stove had nearly died, just a few weak embers glowing in the ash. Madison was asleep on the bench but restless, shivering under the blanket. I got up fast, got the fire going, crumpled paper, thin kindling, thicker pieces. Struck a match, lit it. Fire caught quickly, I fed it more wood. The stove crackled to life, heat began spreading. Madison woke up, sat up, hugged herself. Cold. Stove died overnight, I'm stoking it, it'll warm up. We ate breakfast in silence. I noticed the firewood supply under the tarp outside was shrinking noticeably. Maybe 3 more days, 4 max. Then we'd have to cut new logs, split them. A lot of work. After breakfast, I decided to check in with the main station. I pulled the radio from storage, turned it on, dialed the ranger frequency. Static. Steady, monotonous crackling. I switched frequencies, tried again. Louder static. I pressed transmit. "Station 7 Morrison, Ranger Station, come in." Silence. Crackling. Static. "Station 7 Morrison on the line, Ranger Station, respond." Nothing. I adjusted the dials, tried another frequency. Still just interference. The radio was working. Indicator light on, battery charged, everything functional. But there was no signal. Nothing. I turned off the radio, looked at Madison. She was sitting by the stove, watching me with worry. What happened? Signal's gone completely. Either their equipment's down or the weather's blocking it too heavily. Happens sometimes with heavy rain and low clouds. So we can't tell anyone we're here? Not until the washout ends. She went pale. I saw fear appear in her eyes, not panic, deep, quiet fear. Fear of isolation. She understood. We were truly alone now. Completely. No communication, no way to call for help. Just the two of us, the cabin and wilderness all around. I put the radio back in storage. I needed to check the area around the station, make sure nothing had washed out. I dressed, grabbed an axe, went outside. Madison stayed in the cabin. I walked the perimeter. The garden was flooded, beds turned to mud soup. The shed was fine, roof not leaking. sauna intact. Well, good, water clean. Then I walked to the creek 100 yards from the station. That's where I saw the problem. The creek had become a raging torrent, water up almost 3 feet, current strong, carrying branches, debris. And the bridge, a simple log bridge I'd built a year ago, 2 logs across the creek, planks on top. The bridge was washed out. 1 log completely gone, swept away by current. The second hung by one end, barely holding. The plank deck, gone. No more bridge. I stood on the bank staring at the churning water. The creek was usually calm, narrow, easy to ford. Now it was a river 15 feet wide, waist deep. Current strong enough to knock you down. Impossible to cross. And without the bridge, there was no path to town. The path was completely cut off. I walked back to the station. Madison was sitting by the stove, chewing her nail. Nervous habit. She saw my face, tensed. What happened? Bridge washed out. Can't cross the creek anymore. Path to town is cut off. She stood. Cut off how? Completely? Yeah. Creek turned into a river. Current's too strong. Can't ford it. Bridge is gone. Have to wait for the water to drop. Won't be before the rain stops. She slowly sat back down on the bench, face white. I saw her breathing quicken. She was trying to stay calm but failing. So even if we wanted to leave, we couldn't? We're trapped here. Can't. Not safely anyway. Theoretically, we could try going upstream around the creek, but that adds 12 miles through swamp and deadfall. Without preparation and gear, it's suicide. She covered her face with her hands. God, we're stuck here forever. Not forever. 10 to 12 days. Then the rain stops, water drops, I'll build a new bridge or find another way. Everything will be fine. She looked up at me through her fingers. What if something happens to you? If you get sick, fall, break your leg? I'll be stuck here alone. I won't be able to get out. I'll die here. I sat across from her. Nothing will happen. I'm healthy, careful, I know what I'm doing, won't fall, won't break anything. But even if something did, you'd handle it. You've already learned to fire the stove, chop wood, cook, you'd survive. She shook her head. No, I wouldn't. I can't do anything, I'm just doing what you tell me. Without you, I'm helpless. For now. But every day you get stronger, I see it. You don't cry anymore when you split wood, you haul water without complaining, you're learning. She was quiet. Outside, rain pounded harder, drumming on the roof, on the windows. We sat in the warm cabin, but I felt the walls closing in around us. The isolation had become real, tangible. We truly were alone. No communication, no escape route, no outside help. Just the two of us. I stood, walked to the window. Gray sky, rain, forest all around. Silence except for the sound of water. We'll keep living, I said. Wait it out. No other choice. Madison didn't answer, just sat staring into the fire. Day 7. Rain continued but lighter. I woke up and felt the temperature had dropped again. Wood was running out faster than I'd calculated. Had to find new logs to split. After breakfast, I told Madison, I need to go to the old work site. There are logs left from last year. I'll bring back a few. We'll saw them, split them. We've got maybe 2 days of wood left. I'll come with you, she said. I looked at her, surprised. Usually she didn't ask to come on trips into the forest. Preferred staying in the cabin by the stove. It's muddy out there, 40-minute walk. You'll get tired. That's fine, I want to help. I nodded. We dressed, went out. Rain was a light drizzle, barely noticeable. I led Madison behind me. She wasn't stumbling as much anymore. Learned to place her feet right, keep balance. We reached the work site, an old clearing overgrown with young growth. Logs I'd prepared last summer lay along the edges but hadn't gotten around to sawing. Dry, not heavy. I picked 2 good ones, tied them with rope. We dragged them back together. Madison helped, holding one end of the rope, pulling. No complaints, though I could see it was hard. We got back to the station by noon. I left the logs by the shed. Tomorrow we'll saw them, split them. We went inside, stripped off wet clothes. Madison went to the stove, warming up. I started making lunch. "Can I look in your room?" she asked suddenly. "Just curious how you live in there." I shrugged. "Look, nothing interesting. Bed, stove, shelf with books." She opened the door to my room, went in. I heard her walking around looking at something. Then silence. Long silence. I turned around. "Everything okay?" She came out holding a book. Old notebook with worn cover, yellowed pages. I recognized it. Tom's journal. He'd kept notes his last years. Thoughts, observations, stories. Left me these notebooks before he died. Said, "Might come in handy." I found this on the shelf. "Whose journal is it?" "Tom Hartley's, the old ranger who worked here before me. I told you about him. He kept records, wrote down thoughts, stories, left them to me. Can I read it?" I nodded. "Read." We ate lunch. Madison took the notebook, settled by the stove, opened to the first page. I went about my business, fixing equipment, checking supplies. I heard her turning pages, sometimes stopping, rereading. An hour passed. Madison was still reading, absorbed. Then she looked up. "He writes about a woman. Says she came here in 1987, got lost in the forest. He found her, brought her to the station. She stayed with him a month until the roads opened." I nodded. "Yeah, he told me that story. Similar situation. Fall washout, washed out roads." Madison looked at the notebook, started reading aloud. "She came from the city, thought wilderness was just forest. Didn't understand there are different rules here. First week she cried, begged to let her go, said she couldn't live without hot water and normal food. I didn't pity her. Made her work, chop wood, haul water, cook. She was angry, yelled that I was heartless. But I knew if I pitied her, she'd stay weak. And weakness kills out here." Madison stopped, turned the page, continued. 2 weeks later, she changed. Stopped complaining, started working without reminders. Hands got rough, face tanned, eyes different, alive, not empty like before. One evening she told me, "Thank you for not letting me stay the same." I understood I did right. She looked up at me. "You're doing the same thing to me, not pitying, making me work, because you know pity won't help." I stayed quiet. She kept reading to herself. A few minutes later, looked up again. Here he writes about himself. Says he used to be weak, drank, couldn't find himself. Came to wilderness, thought he'd break. But wilderness didn't break him, taught him. Taught him not to lie to himself, not to pity himself, not to hide behind excuses. Taught him to be honest. She closed the notebook, set it on her lap. I've lied to myself my whole life. Thought my work mattered, that my followers were real people who needed me. But really, I was just selling an illusion. Pretty pictures, filters, perfect life that doesn't exist. And I believed that illusion myself until I ended up here. I sat across from her. Out here, illusions don't work. Out here, you're either real or you're dead. She nodded. I understand now. You're not being cruel to me. You're teaching me the same way Tom taught you. Yeah. She opened the notebook again, found a page, read aloud. Wilderness doesn't forgive, but it doesn't judge either, it just is. You can accept its rules and live, or reject them and die. There's no third option. And in that is its honesty. It doesn't deceive. Madison closed the notebook, looked into the fire. I want to really learn, not just survive these days, but truly understand what it means to be strong. I nodded. Then keep working. Tomorrow we'll saw logs and split new wood. It's hard, but you'll handle it. She exhaled, nodded. I'll handle it. I saw something new in her eyes, not fear, not panic, determination. Day 8. Started early. I woke at 6, but Madison was already awake. I heard sounds from the main room, someone fussing by the stove. Came out and saw her starting the fire, on her own, without my help. She knelt by the firebox, laying in kindling, blowing on the flame. Doing it not quite right. Too much paper, not enough air. Smoke backing up into the room, but doing it. I walked over, silently showed her. Opened the damper more for better draft. She nodded, adjusted. Fire flared properly. Woke up early, I said. Couldn't sleep. Decided to try on my own. You always get up at 6, fire the stove, make breakfast. I just lie there waiting. It's wrong. I should help. I didn't say anything, just nodded. We ate breakfast together. She made the oatmeal herself, poured the tea, ate silently, focused. After breakfast, I said, "Today we saw logs. Hard work, but necessary. Need to cut 2 logs into rounds, then split them. Takes all day." She stood, dressed without extra words. "Let's go." We went outside. Rain had stopped completely, first time in a week. Sky still gray, clouds low, but no rain. Air damp, cold, maybe 40 degrees. I pulled the 2-man saw from the shed, old crosscut, long blade with teeth. Showed Madison how to hold the handles, how to pull smoothly without jerking, not pressing too hard. Let the saw do the work. We laid the first log on sawhorses, grabbed the saw. Me on one side, Madison on the other, started sawing. First strokes awkward, she pulled too hard, then too soft. Rhythm off. But gradually we found the tempo. I pull, she releases. She pulls, I release. The saw bit into the wood, sawdust falling. It was hard. Arms tire, back aches, breathing gets ragged, but Madison didn't stop. Kept sawing, silent, just breathing heavy. 10 minutes later, the first round dropped. We moved the log, started on the next. By noon, we'd sawed both logs. 20 rounds total, even identical. Madison sat on the woodpile, wiped her face with her sleeve. Face red, hair stuck to her forehead, hands shaking from fatigue. "Rest," I said. "Then we'll split." We went inside. I heated up lunch. Leftover potatoes. Ate silently. Madison looked at her hands. Palms red. New blisters forming over old calluses. She clenched her fists, unclenched. Hurts, but bearable. After lunch, back outside. I set the first round on the chopping block, handed her the axe. She took it without hesitation, swung, struck. The round split clean on the first hit. She smiled. First real smile in days. "Did it?" "Yeah, 19 more." She nodded, set up the next round. Split methodically, no rushing, no complaining. I stood nearby, watching, correcting when needed. By evening, all 20 rounds were split. Enough wood for another week. We came back to the cabin when it got dark. Madison immediately sat on the bench, closed her eyes. I saw she was completely exhausted, arms heavy, legs wobbling, breathing rapid. But there was no self-pity on her face. There was satisfaction. "I did it," she said quietly. "Sawed 2 logs, split 20 rounds. I never thought I could." I poured her tea, set it on the table. "You could, and tomorrow you can again if needed." She opened her eyes, looked at me. I understood something today. When I was working, sawing, splitting wood, I wasn't thinking about followers, likes, work. I was only thinking about the wood, the axe, how to strike right. And it was honest. I was doing real work. Not for show, not for a photo, but for real, to survive. And that mattered more than anything I did before. I sat across from her. "Now you're starting to understand. Out here, every action has meaning. Not for likes, not for followers, for life." She nodded. "I want to keep going. Not just survive these days, but learn everything. How to fire the stove right. How to cook more than just oatmeal. How to fix equipment. How to survive on my own without help. Will you teach me?" I looked in her eyes. For the first time in all these days, I saw neither fear, nor pride, nor resentment. I saw sincerity. I'll teach you, but it's hard. You'll have to work every day. You'll have to forget who you were and become someone different. I'm ready, she said firmly. Who I was, I don't need her anymore. I want to be someone who can saw logs, split wood, fire a stove. Someone who's not afraid of mud, calluses, and exhaustion. Someone who lives for real. I nodded. Then tomorrow we start. I'll teach you to fix equipment, cook meat, check supplies, everything you need to know. She smiled, tired but genuine. Thank you for not pitying me, for making me work, for showing me who I really am. I shrugged. Wasn't me. Wilderness showed you, I just didn't get in the way. We sat by the stove, drank tea, stayed quiet. Outside, darkness, silence. But the cabin was warm, and for the first time I felt Madison was no longer a guest. She'd become part of this place. Day 9 woke up to pain in my right hand. Sharp, throbbing pain in the wrist. I lifted my hand, looked, swollen, red. Tried to make a fist, couldn't. Pain shot up. I remembered. Yesterday evening, splitting the last rounds, I hit awkwardly. Axe glanced off. Handle struck my wrist. Didn't think much of it then, just a bruise. But overnight it swelled, came out of my room. Madison was already up, starting the fire. Turned around, saw my face. What's wrong? I showed her my hand. Hit it yesterday, thought it would pass, but it swelled up. Looks like a bad sprain or deep bruise. Hurts to move. She came over, carefully took my hand, looked. Need to ice it, wrap it. I know, I'll do it. But I can't work with this hand today. Maybe tomorrow it'll ease up, maybe day after. She nodded. Okay, I'll handle it. What needs doing? I looked at her carefully. Face serious, no panic, no fear. She was really ready to take everything on herself. Fire the stove, cook, haul water, add wood. Basically everything you already know how to do, just without my help. Got it. Sit down. I'll bring water from the well, then make a cold compress. She dressed, grabbed the buckets, went out. I sat at the table, rested my hand on the surface. Pain wasn't letting up, but bearable. Main thing, don't make sudden movements, don't load it. Madison came back quick. Drew water from a bucket into a bowl, soaked a rag, pressed it to my wrist. Cold eased the pain a little. Then she found the first aid kit, got bandage, wrapped the wrist tight. Not too tight to cut circulation, but enough to stabilize. Where'd you learn to bandage like that? I asked. Used to play volleyball a long time ago. Sprained ligaments a lot. Coach taught me how to wrap properly. She finished, secured the bandage. I tried moving my hand, felt better. The stabilization helped. Thanks. Don't mention it, now sit, rest. I'll do everything myself. She started making breakfast. I sat watching. She worked confidently, got the oats, measured the right amount, added water, set it on the stove, stirred, made sure it didn't burn. Then opened a can, added meat, salted. All correct, just like I taught her. We ate breakfast. Madison washed dishes, wiped the table, added wood to the stove, checked the draft. Did everything herself, no reminders. By noon, she'd made potato and onion stew. Simple dish, but tasty. I saw she was getting tired. Hauling water, cooking, stoking the stove, it all takes energy. But she didn't complain, didn't ask for help. Worked silently, focused. Afternoon, I tried going out to check the wood supply. Madison stopped me. Sit, I'll check myself. She went out, came back 10 minutes later. Wood under the tarp, 5 more days. What we split yesterday, another week. Total about 12 days. Should last till the end of the washout. I nodded. She'd calculated it right. Evening, something unexpected happened. Madison was making dinner. I sat at the table. Suddenly she yelped, jerked her hand from the pot. I jumped up. What? Burned myself, grabbed the pot handle without a rag. I came over, looked. Palm red starting to blister. 2nd-degree burn. Not critical, but painful. Quick, under cold water, hold it 10 minutes. She put her hand in a bowl of water, face tense, breathing through her teeth. I got burn ointment from the first aid kit bandage. Hold it, it'll pass soon. She kept her hand in the water, not crying, not complaining. 10 minutes later, pulled it out. I spread ointment on the burn, wrapped it. She looked at her hand, then at mine. Now we're both injured, I smirked. Yeah, couple of invalids. She smiled, but the smile wasn't happy. How will we work tomorrow? You've got a hand, I've got a hand. We'll work with our other hands. I've got my left working, you've got your right. We'll manage. She nodded. We'll manage. We finished dinner with our good hands. Awkward, slow, but we managed. Then sat by the stove, silent. I looked at her and thought, she's changed completely. A week ago, she cried over broken nails. Today, she burned her hand and didn't even scream. A week ago, she was scared to be alone. Today, she took all the work when I couldn't help. You handled it today, I said. Better than I expected. She looked at me. I didn't want to let you down. You taught me everything. I had to show I didn't learn for nothing. You showed it, she thought, then quietly. You know what's scariest? Not the burn, not the pain, not the exhaustion. Scariest is realizing I lived my whole life wrong. 30 years I played some game, pretended to be important, successful, happy, but really I was empty. And only here in this cabin in the middle of nowhere. I stayed quiet. She continued. When I go back to LA, I won't be able to live like before. Can't pretend again. Can't take photos for followers, smile at the camera, sell the illusion, because now I know what real life is and everything else is fake. I looked in her eyes. Then don't go back to the old life. Find a new one. She nodded slowly. I'll try. We sat in silence. Outside, night, quiet. In the stove, wood crackled. 2 injured hands, 2 tired people, but we were alive. And we managed. Day 11. I woke up and immediately knew something had changed. Silence. Complete silence. No rain. I got up, went to the window. Sky still gray, but clouds high. Broken. Wind cold. Strong. Temperature dropped. I saw frost on the grass. First freeze. Madison woke up too, came to the window next to me. Rain stopped. Yeah, and it's starting to cool down. If tonight hits the mid-20s, the ground will freeze in a couple days, then I can go get the tractor. She nodded silently. We both understood. This was the beginning of the end. A few more days and she'd leave. Next 2 days passed waiting. No rain. Nights, temperature dropped to the mid-20s, ground hardened, puddles iced over with thin crust. My wrist healed almost completely, swelling gone, moving easier. Madison's burn healed too. Blister went down, just a red spot left. We worked together. She fired the stove, cooked, hauled water. Evenings we sat by the fire, talked little. Both understood it would end soon and didn't know what to say. On the 13th day, I went to check the road to the worksite where the tractor sat. Ground frozen solid enough. Hard, not sticky. Ruts passable. Could go. Morning of the 14th day, I said, today we go get the tractor. If everything's good, tomorrow we'll go pull your vehicle. Madison nodded. I'm ready. We gathered quick. I took tools, a can of gas just in case. Madison dressed warm. She already knew how to dress for a long trek. We left at 7, walked fast, confident. Madison didn't fall behind, didn't complain. In 2 weeks, she'd learned to walk in wilderness, place feet right, keep balance, not waste energy. Reached the work site in just over an hour. Tractor sat under the tarp where I'd left it. I pulled off the tarp, checked, everything intact, filled the gas, checked oil, primed fuel. Sat behind the wheel, turned the key. Engine cranked, coughed, died. Again, caught, ran steady. Let it warm 5 minutes. Madison stood nearby watching. Face calm, but I saw sadness in her eyes. She understood. This was the last stage. We drove the tractor back, slow, careful. Ground hard but slippery in places. I drove. Madison sat beside me on the fender, holding the rail. Got to the station by noon. Next day, early morning, we drove to her vehicle. Trip took 90 minutes, tractor's slow, road rough. I drove carefully, avoiding deep holes. The Range Rover stood where we'd left it. 2 weeks later, the vehicle was covered in mud, leaves, looked abandoned but intact. I stopped the tractor, got off, inspected the SUV. Wheels still in mud but ground frozen, not as sticky now. I pulled the cable, hooked it to the Range Rover's tow point, attached the other end to the tractor. Got behind the tractor wheel, engaged gear, started pulling. Cable tensed, tractor strained. Range Rover resisted, didn't want to budge. I gave it more gas. Track spun, caught, crawled forward. Range Rover rocked, shifted, slowly pulled out of the mud. Another yard, another. Came out completely. Wheels free. I shut off the tractor, unhooked the cable. Madison walked to her vehicle, opened the door, sat behind the wheel, turned the key. Engine started first try. Ran smooth, no hiccups. Vehicle intact, ready to drive. She got out, closed the door, walked over to me. Stayed silent a long time. Then quietly, "Thank you. For everything." I shrugged. "You did it yourself, I just showed the direction." She shook her head. "No. You gave me more than direction. You gave me a slap I deserved. You showed me who I really am. Not a picture for followers, not a brand, not an illusion. Real, with calluses, with mud, with exhaustion. And that's the most valuable gift anyone's ever given me." I looked at her silently. She continued, "I don't know what I'll do next. Maybe go back to work. Maybe quit completely, but I know for sure. I'll never lie to myself again. Thank you for that." She held out her hand. I shook it. Firm, brief. Her palm was rough, calluses hard. A working person's hand. She got in the vehicle, closed the door, started the engine, put it in gear. Slowly drove down the road, avoiding holes. I stood by the tractor, watched the white Range Rover drive away on the muddy rut, getting smaller, then disappearing around a bend. Silence. I stood alone in the middle of the forest, took the cable, coiled it, stowed it on the tractor. Got behind the wheel, started the engine, drove back to the station. Evening, sat by the stove, drank tea. The cabin felt empty. The bench where Madison slept, empty. I looked at it and smirked. At least I knocked the crown off someone. Then I got up, added wood to the stove, went to bed. Tomorrow back to normal. Patrol, maintenance, supplies. Life goes on. 2 months later, December. I drove to Talkeetna for supplies. Once a month I make these trips. On the tractor takes 3 hours if the ground's solid. Winter came early, lots of snow, steady cold around 5 degrees. Good winter, calm. Arrived by noon, left the tractor by the store, went inside. Small place, provincial. 2 rows of shelves, counter. Behind it, Mary, 60s. Known me for years, always glad to see me. "Jake," she greeted. "Been a while, how's it out in the bush?" "Good," I replied. "Quiet, no poachers, wildlife's calm, good winter." "Heard you had a visitor in the fall. From California, car got stuck." I nodded. News travels fast in small towns. Someone from the ranger station must have talked. "Yeah. She stayed at the station 2 weeks, then left." "How'd she handle it?" "She handled it." Mary wanted details, but I didn't elaborate. Started picking supplies, rice, canned goods, salt, sugar, flour. Loaded into bags, counted cash. Mary packed the purchases, chatted about weather, town news. I paid, grabbed the bags, was about to leave when I saw the magazine rack by the entrance. Usually don't pay attention. Glossy magazines don't interest me. But one caught my eye. On the cover, a photo. A woman by a campfire in a simple plaid shirt, no makeup, hair braided, familiar face. Madison, headline in big letters. How 12 Days in Alaska Changed My Life, a column about what I learned about my real self. Author, Madison Blake. I picked up the magazine, opened it, found the article, skimmed a few paragraphs. She wrote honestly, no embellishment. Told how she got lost, got stuck, ended up at the station. Described how hard the first days were. Cold, work, blisters, fear. Then how she started changing, how she realized her whole life before was an illusion. How she learned to chop wood, fire the stove, haul water. How for the first time in 30 years she became real. At the end she wrote, I drove into the forest for a pretty picture for my followers. I thought it'd be an adventure for a couple hours. A few photos against the trees, an Instagram post, likes. Instead, I got a lesson that changed me completely. Out there in the wilderness, I understood real luxury isn't brands, followers, or status. Real luxury is knowing how to survive without all that. Knowing how to be yourself without filters, without masks, without lies. The ranger who saved me didn't pity me. He made me work, learn, get stronger. He didn't let me stay weak. And that was the most honest thing anyone's ever done for me. Thank you, Jake. You stripped off the crown I'd worn my whole life without realizing it was choking me. I closed the magazine, looked at the cover again. In the photo, Madison looked different. Not like a LA influencer, like an ordinary woman. Simple, honest, alive, no masks. I smirked, put the magazine back on the rack. Mary watched me curiously. That about you? About the wilderness, I answered. Not me. I grabbed the supply bags, went outside. Cold hard, air clean. Got on the tractor, started the engine, drove out of town. 3 hours ahead to the station. Snow, silence, forest. I thought about Madison. Wonder what she's doing now. Did she go back to her old life or find a new one? Good if she didn't forget what she learned. But the city takes its own. Maybe in a year she'll be taking photos for followers again, smiling at the camera, selling illusion. Or maybe not. We'll see. I drove halfway, stopped to rest, killed the engine, got off the tractor, stretched my legs. All around, silence, absolute, just wind in branches, snow crunching underfoot. I looked at the forest, the sky, the tractor tracks behind me. My life is simple, honest, no lies. That's enough for me. Got back on the tractor, started the engine, kept going. An hour to the station. There the stove waited. Warm cabin, a book on the shelf. Regular evening, regular life. Good that Madison found herself. Good that she wrote honestly. Maybe someone else will read it and think about their own life. Or maybe not. That's their business. I rounded the last bend, saw the station through the trees. Smoke from the stovepipe. The fire hadn't died. The cabin was warm. I pulled up, shut off the tractor, unloaded supplies, went inside, kicked off my boots, hung my jacket, added wood to the stove, sat at the table, poured tea, looked out the window. Gets dark early. Winter days are short. Tomorrow, patrol again, check traps, chop wood. Life goes on. I thought about Madison one last time and smirked. At least I knocked the crown off someone. Then I finished my tea, lay down to sleep. Tomorrow's a new day.